Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Humcast, and today we're bringing you guys a couple different discussions on anime and things related. You already know the spoiler warning, so I'll say it again. Spoilers. So, yeah. Anyways, today I've got with me Luke.
Hello there.
LeeDoe.
Hey.
Wexter.
Good evening, everyone.
I myself am Heavenly, and we make up a portion of the Humcast. A few of others aren't here, but nonetheless, we're putting on a show, give you guys some diversity. And I guess today we're going to be talking about what we were currently watching. So does anyone have anything they want to throw out there real quick?
Hunter x Hunter is ending, and I finally caught up to it.
Yeah. It sucks that it's ending. It got a reboot, and then now it's got to be cut off again. But it has caught up pretty close to the manga, so I can't say that I didn't see it coming.
The problem is, like, a year after the anime started, the 2011 remake, is the manga went on hiatus for 2 years, which is never good. It usually means that your anime will catch up pretty quickly. It took 3 years for it to catch up, which is actually pretty commendable, but...
They also did a very solid animation, in my opinion, and they kind of rushed through the Hunter exam arc. It was very fast-paced compared to the original animated series.
Yeah. I liked the pacing for most of it, though. It started getting pacing problems probably about 2/3 through the Chimera Ant arc, where it just starts getting the problem you have with most shonen, where it just goes really, 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 really slowly. Literally, it takes like 3 or 4 episodes, and at the end, like 4 episodes straight in Chimera Ant, because a big event's going on, the narrator says, it has been 30 seconds, or like 3 minutes or something like that since the mission began, and I'm just sitting there like, what?
Yeah, it was definitely like that, in my opinion. I felt like that was them trying to compensate and make time back up for what they lost. You could definitely see that, like, all of a sudden when this started up, like, it seemed like almost like, holy hell, we're running out of time. We need to build time. And that's kind of what I felt like they did with that portion of the Chimera arc.
Yeah.
And then I'm guessing after that was over, they were like, it's done. So they moved on to the next arc, which we won't say its name because, some people here haven't seen it. But
in the very name of that arc, spoiler. It's the final arc
really
of the show, though.
Yeah, it'll be the last arc of the anime.
Well, I'm going to give this show actually a lot of credit that they decided to just end it and just drop it cold turkey, then drag it out. Because there's been so many anime adaptations of popular manga that have just gone on and on and on, and it's just become nothing but pure, unadulterated filler.
In their defense, I'll say that that's not so uncommon in this case. If you look at Fullmetal Alchemist compared to Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, and I know different series, but work with me, they're both reboots, they kind of did the same thing. Like, Fullmetal Alchemist had more fillers than Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Like, if you remember the Mine Town arc in Fullmetal Alchemist, the original one, that was a full episode.
But at the same time, that did pay off later in the series, and this is something I am going to defend the original Fullmetal Alchemist about, is there were certain episodes early on that seemed like filler, but then later on in the series they had payoff. Like, there was a reason why they introduced that. Except for the whole thief thing in the series.
Yeah.
That one never really had payoff, but the Mine Town had payoff. But
the thing
go
is,
back to
the
Hunter
thing
x
is,
Hunter.
It's not... Okay, I'm just staying on Fullmetal Alchemist for a second. That stuff actually is not really filler, because that's in the manga as well. I've read those arcs. They're in the manga. They're still technically not filler. And also, even with Brotherhood, like you mentioned the Mining Town arc, that actually comes up in Brotherhood
it definitely does come up, but it was very quickly reflected on. I wasn't really sure on how the manga did that. Did they actually fully expand on the whole Mining Town arc the way they did in the original anime?
They did.
They did?
They did.
The original anime branches off from the manga, starting with Greed. That's when it branches off.
Here's the advantage that Brotherhood had compared to the original series. Brotherhood had the original series, so whatever the original series did that was like direct one-to-one from the manga, which is, I'd say maybe the first 10 episodes was direct one-to-one from the manga.
I think a little bit more than that, but...
Maybe a bit more. Then that means what Brotherhood was able to do was go, okay, what would normally be a 100-episode series, we can cut down to maybe 69 episodes. We can cut out a lot of the stuff the original series already touched on and just lightly gloss over it.
Right, and that's one of the things that I wanted to mention anyways, is that, like, Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and Hunter x Hunter, I think it was, which one, 1998? No.
1999.
1999? Okay, and then the 2011 Hunter x Hunter, watch them both. They both provide different things.
Yeah.
Like, there are portions, especially during the Hunter exam, especially in the original animation, there are things in there that are completely removed, and they may have just been original anime content, but completely removed from the 2011, but they were still good. They added just a bit more to the series. They gave you a bit more in-depth on just what was going on during the Hunter exam. So I do recommend watching both, in both series cases.
Yeah. And actually, to be honest, Hunter x Hunter, or Hunter x Hunter, however you want to call it, 2011, I find it's a very interesting species in its own right, because it's kind of adapting an older manga, which has been a really big trend recently with stuff like Berserk, Sailor Moon,
Kiseiju from
Kiseiju. JoJo, prime example, where recent anime companies have adapted older material. Yeah, Hunter x Hunter was kind of still going on, came off hiatus, went on hiatus. But, I mean, it's kind of a cool thing to see that it was one of the first series that kind of kicked off this whole nostalgia binge of older manga that's getting a proper anime adaptation.
Yeah. Which is why it hurts all the more that it's ending. Like, it ends, I'm pretty sure, in a few days, and by the time this episode goes up, it'll probably be done, and I'll probably be sitting there crying, because it's one of those anime where you could just watch, like, 10 or 15 episodes and not even care. You have, like, no difficulty watching
yeah, for sure, because I haven't seen much of Hunter x Hunter, but I've watched some of it, and the reason why I started watching it was I was horribly sick, back in Christmas of 2013, like, horribly, like, nasty sick, and I needed a show that was very easy, very light to watch, and I watched Hunter x Hunter, and Luke, you're absolutely right. For somebody who is as sick as a dog, being able to follow it and enjoy it, and kind of feel slightly better, even though you're, like, in this really crappy mind space of, I feel awful. It is that magical show that just kind of gets you to feel good, it gets you, like, really, really jazzed. It's got that ability to it.
Feel good.
I'm sure I will, but I mean, it's got that ability, even when it did the darker stuff, that you still kind of had that nice fuzzy buzz in your chest of, this feels good, this feels enjoyable, this is fun.
That goes away with the Chimera Dark. It's depressing.
It does. I'm sorry.
There is death.
No, please don't
crying,
spoil.
And there is badassery.
Yeah, it gets. It's basically what he said. Just keep watching. It's a good show. Hunter x Hunter is a much watch. Both versions, in my opinion. It's kind of, I want to almost say it's a classic.
You know what? I'm willing.
Too far. Well, the original is considered.
I'm willing to classify a Hunter
so
2011. I've yet to see all of it, but I could probably classify it as it's going to be one of those shows that ends up getting talked about 10 years from now. People going, "What was some of the really good anime from the decade of 2010?" People be like, "Hunter x Hunter, go watch that shit. It was awesome."
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting.
Manga, I believe it's the same mangaka as Yu Yu Hakusho as well.
Yes, it is.
Apparently they share a lot of similarities. But
they do, definitely. I mean, I don't know, has anyone here seen Yu Yu Hakusho?
No.
Yeah, you guys are all missing out.
What do you think is better out of the two, Emily? That's the question.
What is better?
Yes.
You see, Yusuke from Yu Yu Hakusho is almost like a semi-delinquent. So he's got kind of like this badassery going on where he kind of doesn't care, and like he's the first one to admit that he's stupid and he goes into things with a fight. I liked that a lot more than Gon's personality, just because I thought it was more enjoyable.
Really simplistic.
Right, Gon is simplistic. Yusuke is also simplistic, but he's older, he's a delinquent, he's kind of like, he'll flip you off and not care, and he does that in the show. Like, that's the kind of guy Yusuke is, so I thought it was really fun being able to watch him.
Yeah.
you see different similarities between other characters. Kuwabara and Leorio and Hiei and Killua, those people who have seen one or the other can get an idea of how they relate. But
No,
Wexter,
and I mean,
they're
it's
similar.
probably gonna be spoilers, but you know what?
If you really want to go further, never mind, I can't say that because Wexter.
It's
Spoilers.
fine, but while we're back on this kind of topic of shows that have been
No, don't worry about it. It wasn't that big of a deal, but
readapted, what kind of older manga or show that you guys personally feel could use like the new 2010 facelift, like the really nice updated visuals, updated pacing, directing? Because for me, that'd be something like Ranma One Half. I think would be really, really cool to see redone with modern day techniques. Because it was a really good show back in the day. Could probably be a really great show now. And now that the manga's actually done, we can get a proper conclusion to it.
You see, the problem with this is I haven't read many manga, if at all. So
I'm kind of the manga reader here.
Then what do you think, Heavenly?
Geisaju would be one that is getting animated that I really liked in terms of like manga. I thought that was really nice. So I'm glad to see that that's actually getting animated. I'm checking the date right now, but there's another manga called Holy Land. I think it might be a bit older. It's a fight manga. It's basically a street fight manga, and it kind of is. It's good, so it could. In my opinion, I think it would have a really nice animation. It was published in 2000, continued in 2007, so maybe not as old as we're talking, but it was still good. If I had to really go somewhere with the manga to anime world, it would be that I'd like to see non-Japanese manga-styled series animated.
Oh, please, give me something like Brody's Ghost or Miki Falls. I think those would make excellent
I
anime
haven't read
adaptations.
either of those. I do know, I believe it's Mark Crilly who writes them, right? An American
he's
English
really good.
writer, right?
He's really
I was
good.
actually going more along the lines of manhwa, Korean manga.
Oh, Korean.
You've got like
Okay.
Tower of Gods. You've got
Oh yeah, no, I've heard some of those.
Girls of the Wild. They're all really good manga. Like that's just the way it works. So it's a shame that I know that as I read them, I will never see them animated.
Yeah. And I happen to agree. Like, it'd be cool to see a bit more Western or Korean manga actually get a proper adaptation instead of the continuation of, here, let's pump out a Marvel anime or anime.
Let's make
Yeah.
another Spider-Man cartoon.
People talk about like manga being Japanese comics in a way that's true, but I think it's not so simplistic anymore, at least. I think what you would call a manga is the style that it's written in. You know what I mean? The format, the way the story's projected. Like, there's a very large difference between American comics and manga, or Japanese comics, which I don't like. I don't like saying those anymore because I don't feel like they're relatable. I don't feel like the culture has so much to do with it as the way of presenting it does.
Yeah. In fact, manga is kind of its own different animal. It's done in black and white, not for money reasons or time reasons, because Western comics have been able to do a similar price range, a similar time format for decades with full color spreads and all that stuff. I think it's more of a stylistic thing. It's black and white. It uses screen tones. It's done in the manga art style. Yeah, I agree. It's more of a stylistic thing
Right.
in the way it's presented. And sometimes its themes can also be where you could find something you could classify as manga.
Yeah, like, I can't think of many American-made comics that are romance-based, right? In the manga world, you've got them everywhere. That's kind of another thing. Like, you can make whatever you want into a manga and present it however you want. Like, it always works out. You see this done with every genre. Like, we've got action, romance, we've got, everything, really, that can be converted. And I'm sure you could do the same thing with comics. I really don't know that much about comics, so I feel I'm ill-prepared to, debate that. But
Only
I'm
watch
sure
the
it's-
Marvel movies, Heavenly. That's it.
no, I don't
Well,
watch movies.
Western comics, it's growing up. It is definitely growing up from the whole, the only way to be a profitable comic is to be a superhero comic.
Yeah.
It is definitely growing out of that. It's been a very slow process, but there have been successful comic books that have branched out of the norm.
Webcomics are a really big example of this.
Walking Dead being a good example of that. It's still actiony, but it's not superhero based. It's pure survivalist. It's basically pure survival. And that's been one that's kind of broken out of the only way to be successful, like really successful, is to be a superhero based comic.
I have to say there's something. There's still a difference. I mean, if I like see it in anime, and you notice that anime have the problem that due to the fact that they are in public television, they have to be not so extreme, and manga especially focus more on the I don't really know how to describe it, but like the darker things, or like if a show is a manga usually is more brutal, or manga usually has like more real life problems in it that anime usually wouldn't tackle. So I think in that way manga are really grown up, and that's like one thing that differentiates them between American comics, like way more.
I'm honestly not sure that I can fully agree with that. I'm like I said, I'm not an expert on American comics, but I have heard that there are American comics, even ones that date a bit before, that are in the same way. Like, they're very dark, they're very surreal, I want to say. They're still there, like, they have that. I feel like it's a matter of majority. Like, there's so much more manga than there is comics, at least I think, in terms of, like, different franchises or brands.
Genres.
No, not genres. This is not the word I'm looking for. I guess
Demographics?
No, it's still not what I'm looking for. It's like there's a bunch of different titles. Maybe that's a good way to say it. Like in manga, you have a bunch of titles. Not like manga's not all done by like the same group of people. I felt like comics were all done by like the same closed circle, so everything was very similar. If that makes sense.
To a degree, you are right. It is very common for writers to do a particular section of a character, like a character arc within a particular comic series, and then get pulled off it and then put onto another character. That's fairly common.
Right. I feel like
it's very rare for the author, unless it's their own original piece, to really get the opportunity to tell a complete story that is from beginning to end completely their own, closed off, done. More in the mainstream comic industry.
Right. I feel like manga has that going for it, and since they do that, there's a lot more diversity. You know, people can create whatever they want to create. There's really no limiters, in my opinion. But that means people are responsible for what they create, and they have to create something solid if they want to maintain themselves and their career.
Yeah, and to agree, that is why the manga industry is so competitive.
Yeah, it's difficult, and I honestly don't think the payoff is that much.
You do it because you love it, and I think that's what a lot of authors keep trying to do. So they do it because they love it.
And it's when you get into the you do it because you love it, you know, a lot of different factors start playing in. You know,
and then if you actually start getting popular, then you can start dragging it out, like Attack on Titan and Naruto and Bleach.
Right. Yeah, sometimes that is also the disadvantage of the manga industry, is authors are forced to really go, okay, drag this out a bit. You know, it's a weekly manga. You gotta put in fillers. You gotta put in this. You can't just go beginning to end entirely its own done. Like each chapter is very important. Yeah, you have the rare Death Note manga, which is a Shonen Jump property, but is each chapter was important to the greater story. Barely any filler.
Right, I think that just depends.
But then you got stuff like Nisekoi, which is very much week to week. You're flipping a coin. Is this going to be important to the overall story, or is this going to be a funny filler?
Yeah,
the thing is with Nisekoi and whatnot. That's like a lot of slice in life as well. Like certain demographics, like romance, you can get away with filler a lot easier because you can just say, up, slice of life. Bam, okay, it's fine.
Yeah, but
Whatever.
Yeah, but there's even filler in stuff like in Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, Bleach. There are, even in the mangas, like filler chapters.
I think it's an unavoidable thing. I think that happens. When you start going, I think you can't go full throttle on a story all the time. I think it gets overly stressful. Like, the environment of the manga becomes stressful if you constantly have something happen. I've read, some Korean manga that are... Koreans love drama, if you know anything about Korean media, and they love to hound it on you. So when I was reading some Korean manga based on romance, I knew that those were things that I weren't going to touch anymore because it was like one event after another. Something was constantly hounding down on you throughout the story. It was kind of like, can we get a moment of peace, please? Like, let things go right for a change.
Yeah, and that's the magic of the filler. Is the filler chapter is always the breather chapter. It's the one where, after the storm, you have the calm, where everything's just going okay.
Right.
And to me, that can help build the tension. Like in Berserk, you're starting to read more Berserk now. You noticed in the Golden Age arc, where there were the downtimes, like the downtime chapter, it was just like, I feel relaxed. Everything's going okay for them. Then, boosh, back up to intensity to the limit. And you had the breather moments where it's like, intensity, breathe. Intensity, breathe.
Right, I think that's part of what, like, in any series, I think having a proper balance in those two things can help make or break a stressful environment for the series.
Yeah, my problem with some filler, and this happens a lot in harem manga, sometimes happens in the action genre as well, Naruto, Bleach, is where, after a while, the breathe is too long. It's too long to breathe.
Right, yeah, that happens.
It starts becoming too mundane. And sometimes this can happen with some arcs in longer shows as well, where they introduce this new villain. Ahaha, I am Evil McEvilkin of the Evil Lands. And all you're thinking when you see him is, alright, any bets on whether he's gonna be a really long villain, or there's gonna be a villain above that villain, or then a villain above that villain, who's actually orchestrated the entire events.
Right, the villains who are orchestrating the villains, orchestrating villains, right?
Exactly, I love it. Oh no, Evil McEviltons wasn't the super evil mastermind. It was actually Evil of Eviler Land, man. Haha, but he wasn't the real puppeteer.
It's gotta be like the literal version of a puppeteer playing the puppeteer.
And that's why
playing the puppeteer.
And that's why most battle shonen are sometimes like the analogy people use is it's almost like a tournament system where you go, the main character fights one enemy, beats it, goes on to the next, beats that, goes on to the next, that team's stronger, beats that.
Yeah, and that's kind of how Dragon
called I want to say it's called like baddies get bigger and badder. Like that's kind of like the trope it's called.
Yeah,
where they do that.
Yeah, and that's why to a degree I think something like Dragon Ball really worked, is the villains did not really have too much connection to themselves outside of, like Vegeta, of course there was Frieza, and the androids there was Cell. But when you compare like Frieza to Cell, they have like no relation to each other. It's not like, what'd be a good, like, I think Naruto's been doing this. I've been hearing Naruto's been doing this a lot of, there's a villain above this villain and a villain above that villain. We're just becoming this.
Yeah, that's a common thing in the Naruto world. I want to say that that's just the way that they kind of made it go through.
Mm-hmm.
But
and that's kind of what I'm talking about, where the piece has kind of started to bleed into your story, where there's no longer any tension in reading the next chapter, because you know this villain is going to be defeated and there's going to be a villain above him. It becomes predictable.
Right.
And that is something that I do enjoy manga like Berserk, Full Metal Alchemist, and several others, is the unpredictability of it. Is, one moment you're enjoying this really interesting arc, but then all of a sudden, it kind of twists into something else.
I like to see it when, like you said, mangas kind of give you a run through the loop instead of just doing something so straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's something that you kind of gotta wait for it to come around every once in a while, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't happen very often.
So, I guess that's enough on that subject. Back to what we've been watching. Wex, I believe you've been watching some interesting things lately.
Oh god, you went there.
I've been watching some. All right, there's been a thread that appeared on Hummingbird called the "Challenge a User to Watch Something" thread, where you have a set time period to watch an anime and kind of just get through it, and then you could challenge somebody else. Well, there's been one particular user who's been kind of challenging me to watch a lot of crap. And there's been another one who's been challenging me to watch stuff he's been wanting me to watch forever, and I just never gotten around to it. So I'm going to first talk about the show that I personally liked from that thread in a very sick way. I wasn't expecting to like it. High School DxD. Oh my goodness. Where do I start with the show? First off,
start with
the
dress
plot. I'm going to start with the main plot. The main plot is at least interesting. It's got ideas and sort of things going for it where I'm like, okay, this could work. This is kind of cool. But let's talk a bit about the characters. The characters are kind of fun and enjoyable. Some of them are a bit too one-dimensional, but they got a hint of there's a bit more underneath the surface.
I like them for their plot.
And when there's moments where you just got two characters talking it out, and they're just kind of in this room and they're talking, that's kind of when the show really, really, really shines. Is the quieter moments. It's the moments where the characters can actually interact with each other. When the show does it's ecchi comedy stuff, sometimes it's really, really, really funny, and you're gonna laugh your ass off. But sometimes you just go, oh, wow. Oh, that's not even funny. That's just dumb.
Yeah, there was one point in it. I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about, Wexter, where something almost happens. You know, where it starts to go from ecchi to something else.
Yeah.
That moment. And
yeah, that moment.
The point where you almost drop it because you're like, I don't want it to go there. Please don't go there. That's one of those not funny parts.
And I mean, there were some really cool moments as well. The chess battle was really, really, really cool. I loved how they did that. It was very interesting, and I loved it. I loved the chess battle. That was so cool. But that's my problem with this show. Is it's very much so a mixed bag. Like there's tons of ecchi in it. Sometimes too much. Where I'm like, okay, I get it. Fan service. Yeah, this is your genre label, but slow the fuck down with it, okay? Please, just stop.
Well,
I'm trying to take this scene seriously, and this girl with her breast hanging out of her shirt is not helping.
I think that has to do with...
I think that has to do with you, personally.
No, well... Maybe.
You're not supposed to take it seriously.
Right.
I know, but the thing is with High School DxD is there are serious moments. Like, there are some very tense, serious moments. And when you've got, like, a character with a breast hanging out, all you're thinking is, wow, that is completely killing the mood right now. She's not even noticing her breast is, like, fucking hanging out of her shirt, or she just simply does not give a shit.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I don't really mind. Like, it's ecchi. You kind of take where you get it. But there's also moments where the action is very well choreographed, the characters are enjoyable, and when the humor is really funny, it's really funny. When the humor is really bad, it is really bad. It's, like, awful.
In my opinion, the series is missing balance. It
has balancing issues, but overall, it's not bad. It's enjoyable. I can recommend it to people who enjoy this kind of show. You're probably going to love it.
If you can handle the ecchi.
If you can handle the ecchi, you're probably going to really enjoy it. I think it's a solid 7 out of 10, a solid good
I think I give it a 6 or
recommendation.
7 out of 10, yeah.
Yeah, it's a solid recommendation. Go watch it if you have the time.
Just turn your brain off and just enjoy it.
Yeah, turn off your brain, except for those moments where it wants you to turn your brain back on and appreciate some of the author actually putting care and attention into his characters.
You may like the second season then, because at the beginning of the second season, I hadn't finished it because it just wasn't my cup of tea. Because basically it changes its focus away from what it originally did. But the second season tends to be a little bit more serious, and it advances some of the character backstories and fleshes some more characters out. I personally don't like where it goes, but maybe you'll enjoy it. I don't know. I haven't finished the second season. I've only seen up to like episode 5 or so, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'll check it out at some point. I've been very busy with school and stuff, and I'll see if I can eke out the time to actually sit down and watch it. But this is another reason why this thread's been really annoying me, is there's shows I want to finish, but when I get challenged to do something, I have to do it. And yes, I will get to Yugo the Negotiator, Heavenly. I will get to that.
I put in an official submit.
I will watch it. You have challenged me to watch it, which means, yeah, I will put off shows that I actually want to watch just to do the challenge. Because I am a bit of a masochist that way. I will watch it.
I'm telling you, you're probably gonna like it. It's worth it.
I'm probably gonna really enjoy
Actually,
it.
apparently,
But there has been...
for the forum rules, you have to be nominated to watch something in order to nominate someone else. So Heavenly,
hey, you keep your filthy mouth closed, okay?
I will watch it just because Heavenly does give it such a high recommendation. I will be like, I'll sit down and watch it. Doesn't matter. I'll forget about the rules.
I know LeeDoe started it, right?
Yeah. I actually did. I haven't seen much, but I have seen, well, some of it. And I have to say, the first thing I thought when I was watching this show is that this show is so old, yet some of the problems that are described in, like, not described, but shown in this show are still here today, and
still relevant.
Yeah, still relevant. And I don't really know if that should be depressing or if that should be I don't know. I think it's rather depressing that we aren't able to fix our problems from 10 years ago. And the show itself is amazing. I mean, for the time when it was produced, the animation is amazing, and it's really well written and all, but it makes you think a lot about the current situation in the world.
It is I like to say it's surreal realism to it. Like, you're watching it, but then at the same time you think for a minute, like, these things are, like, legit. These are things that actually happen. Just to throw it out there for those of you who don't know, Yugo the Negotiator is basically about a guy who works as a negotiator. He apparently has never failed a case before, or at least that's what it says about him. And he essentially negotiates hostages out of hostage situations in cases where, you have violence or, trying to get a ransom, but there's third-party intervention. He basically goes through the unsystematic way to contact the people, get the money to the criminals, and the guy back to his family or whatever. Like, that's what he does. And in a lot of ways, what LeeDoe is saying is very accurate, and I don't mean to stem off into world news, but if you pay attention to the news, especially in recent times, there was a British journalist who just posted a video captured by the Islamic State in, I think, East Syria.
ISIS.
Yeah, well, they go by the Islamic State. ISIS is...
The Islamic State of Syria... No, it's the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria.
There are so many names about it.
Their official title they want to go by is Islamic State. But again, I don't mean to branch out into world news, because that could be a whole nother mess.
That's not what we have this podcast for.
Right, we want to sit back and relax, but in a lot of ways, it's nice to be reminded that these things still exist, even in the anime world. Like, this is an example of I may be reading too much into it, but an author trying to portray his views on current societal things, judging by when the anime was released.
Exactly. And of course, I will get to that show. That's probably going to be the next one I watch. Because, like, as I said, it's really good, and unfortunately, it kind of does play into the whole idea of just kind of how the world works and how shit is always going to be fucked up. And I mean, it looks really good, but to get, unfortunately, to a lighter but also more stupider note, another one of the shows I was recommended to watch, and I'm going to get the full name here. The full name is Fate's Kiliad Linea Prisma Ilia, aka Fate Lolly. Oh, where do I begin with this show? probably with a fun analogy. You guys like Game of Thrones, right?
No.
No.
I don't watch TV,
Whatever.
you know this.
I don't watch
Whatever. There's people out there who like Game of Thrones. So let's take Arya Stark. Let's make her a magical girl. Let's make her have a brother complex with Jon Snow. And now, let's give her a lully friend who's gonna defeat the Hound with the power of lully friendship. Oh, go bite yourself. No, that's basically what they did to Fate Stay Night and Fate Zeros. They basically took a character, made her a magical girl, and made her go, now you're going to need to fight the characters from Fate Stay Night in this horrifically battle arena with Rin. Oh my goodness.
So,
Oh.
I'm
So in other
gonna
words, you
send
love
out
it.
my apologies to everyone who just listened to that godforsaken speech. Wexter is a tad bit emotional and potentially drunk on Fate Yuri, but he has lost the capability to turn his brain off for a fan service.
No,
show.
no, I can turn my brain off, Heavenly. I can turn my
Alright,
brain
well,
off.
I really need you. Hold on,
I just gave a glowing review to High School DxD, which is one of those shows which requires you to turn off your brain.
right, but you see, different
Alright.
brains. Like,
Yes, there are
for High School
certain-
DxD,
No,
you
no,
can
no,
turn
no,
your
no.
brain off. For Fate Yuri, you need to turn your cerebellum off. You need to shut everything down.
No,
Then you're
need to
dead.
stand
And then
there
you don't
like your
experience
brain
that
it.
should
dead.
What's the
never
point?
be an excuse to enjoy a show. You have to completely shut down.
Because
You should
that's
never
what
have
it's
to do
really
that.
intended for. I really
No,
feel there was
it's-
that
it
small
really
group
shouldn't.
of Ilya fanboys or otakus in Japan waving their Ilya, body pillow around half naked probably,
Why did Ilya not get
And
an arc and Fate Stay Night?
begging for some type of Ilya focus. And then, whoever produced it was like, hey, Ilya focus, throw it out.
Okay, no, but here's the thing, though, is there are 2, maybe 3 ways to judge a show. You can judge the show based off its adaptation ability, whether it's a good adaptation of the source material. You can judge it based on its own merits, whether or not the show is good on its own. Or you can judge it based as a spin-off, whether the spin-off is as solid as the original, or if it carries elements from the original and puts a fun new twist on it. Fate Ilya, you can judge in kind of all 3 categories. First off, as an adaptation, it's probably a very good adaptation of its source material. Alright, that's probably
Hold
what
on.
the
Does it
fans
even
want.
have a source material?
It has a manga.
Yes, it's based off a manga. It's based
Is
off
that
a
an
manga.
actual source material, or were they kind of released co-together?
No, it's the
an
actual source material.
Okay.
Okay? Probably as an adaptation of the source material, probably it's a very good adaptation. I do not feel like reading the manga, but you know what? For what it is, it's probably a good adaptation of that. It'll probably make those fans happy. On its own merits, it is a very poor magical girl anime. The plot is mundane, the characters are one-dimensional, and they feel like they're just archetypes. You have the klutzy, cutesy, magical girl, who also just so happens to love her brother in that very weird kind of way.
The Wincest
Mhm.
kind
And then-
of way.
Yeah, the Wincest
The
kind of way.
people
And in
die
this
when they are killed
universe-
kind of way.
Yeah, and in this universe, they are brother-sister, which is creepy in its own right. But whatever, we'll get to that later. So that's, and also you've got the generic, oh, I have no friends because I don't want them, stone cold heart bitch character. You've got the generic tsundere. You've got the generic tsundere foil of the tsundere. And you've got and the characters that appear from Fate Stay Night as the summoned cards don't really have a personality. They're just kind of, hey, look, it's Saber! You remember Saber? Oh, look, it's Berserker! You remember Berserker?
Hey, look,
It's
it's
like-
Saber Alter. You haven't seen her in anime before.
Oh, you went there.
And as its own merits, there are much better magical girl anime out there. You've got Sailor Moon, you've got Cardcaptor Sakura, you got Madoka Magica. There are much
Oh
better
my god.
variations of the magical girl anime out there than this. But if you're a fan of magical girl anime, you might like this, you might not like this. It retreads a lot of ground that's already been covered. But you know what? That's what it is.
You know what?
It's a very bland, generic magical girl anime. Now I'm also judging it based off its potential as a spin-off.
Which is totally a horrible decision, by the way.
No, because this show I'm judging off 3 different merits, because there are 3 merits to judge a show based off of.
We covered it.
And this is its quality as a spin-off. Does it take the original concept of the show or the characters from that show and spin them in a fun new direction? There have been shows out there that have done that very well. Gundam is one of those series where it takes the UC timeline and it creates these alternate universe spin-offs that take elements from that main timeline but puts them through a fun new spin.
Full Metal Panic.
And sometimes it works. That's also a good example of a fun spin-off where they take the elements of the original and they spin it in a fun new direction. But here's the problem with Fate Ilia, is it doesn't really work because the characters that come from the other works, Fate Stay Night, Fate Zero, are their own character. They are 3-dimensional, fleshed out characters. I haven't seen a lot of the original Fate Stay Night. I'm actually working my way through the Studio Dean adaptation right now for other reasons. But
we'll talk about that
here's
after
the problem. We'll talk about that at some point. I haven't seen all of it yet, so I can't judge it on its own merits. But here's the thing, though: as a spin-off, the characters are one-dimensional. Just kind of you take the one bit of their character that really stands out, but you just go, that's all their character. Rin was kind of a tsundere, so we're gonna make her a total tsundere. We're gonna take Ilia. She was a cutesy, kind of quiet girl, so we're gonna take that and make her entire character. And you know what? The only thing we're going to take from the actual servants from those series is their appearance of the servant, and they're like, rawr, 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 we gonna defeat Ilia, rawr, rawr, rawr. And the original characters are not good enough on their own to redeem that. So as a spin-off to Fate Stay Night, Fate Zero, I can't really give it like the quality of, it's an amazing spin-off, it's fun, it's new, it's fresh. It's not. It's a retreaded magical girl anime that takes beloved characters from the main series, strips them of most of their character, and puts them into these scenarios where they fight off against servants from the original series that really just do not pan out. Animation-wise, it's kind of good, it's not amazing, it's got some really nice moments, like these really nice animated moments, but also it's got moments where you look at Ilia's face, you're like, what the fuck's wrong with her face?
I think the reason for that is they were releasing a kind of, it's about as popular as Fate Ilia at the time. They both released them, I think, summer of last year. It was both Fate Lolly and Watamode. They released at the same time. So maybe their resources were kind of spread thin, and that's why some
but
still really couldn't do everything well, but I don't know.
And here's what I noticed in the musical score, is it kind of has the Fate sound, but it sounds like generic reinterpretations of those pieces. Like, the really bad fan covers.
Who do you know who composes the music?
No, I don't.
I need to check that real quick.
I don't want to know who composed music, because if it's anybody notable, I'm going to be disappointed, because the musical score, on its own merits, was bleh. It took elements from the Fate Zero soundtrack, from the Fate Stay Night soundtrack, and it didn't do anything with them. It just kind of sounded like, let's take the tone of those songs, but not actually do anything with them.
Composer was Tatsuya Kato. He's done Phantom Requiem for the Phantom.
Which was really good, by the way.
Mirai
really
Nikki,
good music for that.
Free. Buddy Complex. More Free. So.
Okay, so Phantom was his one-hit wonder. Got it.
Okay.
So, I mean, on a musical level, it's not as good. It's not as good as the other ones. So, as a spin-off of, like, this beloved series, Fate Kiliad does not do anything with it. It does not bring a fresh attitude to it. It does a basically fan-pandering, basically the only people who are going to enjoy this are Ilia fanboys, and maybe those few people who even like generic Mahou Shoujo. It's not something that people should search out to watch, unless you're a masochist, or you were challenged to watch it out of some sick, sadistic glee of the person who recommended it. It's not good. It's not enjoyable. Or feed me the excuse of, or you're a lolicon. Don't ever feed me the excuse of, oh, well, you just have to turn off your brain to enjoy it, because I can do that. Akame ga Kill, I could turn off my brain and enjoy that. Gurren Lagann, I can turn off my brain and enjoy that.
You don't have to turn your brain off for Gurren Lagann.
Sometimes you do.
Anyways,
really
Wexter covered what I really feel about this, and I know he takes it in a much more literal way, and I definitely understand, because, like, you think about it for a minute, you think Fate Zero.
I'm also thinking Fate Stay Night. I'm also
We'll
thinking
talk about
like
series, but you think Fate Zero, and then you kind of think like anything that's got to be somewhat in that same circle's got to be pretty badass, right? Right? No.
well, I'm thinking it's got to be at least a decent spin-off because I am
Right,
fair to anime.
but-
This is my slogan as an anime viewer and sometimes a critic is I will give the show a fair shot. I do not care how badly received it was by other people. There have been shows that have been badly received by people, but I've personally kind of enjoyed in a weird way.
High School DxD.
But they're thank you. That is it's when the characters are allowed to be characters. High School DxD shines. High School DxD shines when it gets to do its action. High School DxD shines when it gets to do some of the really funny comedy. And when it tries to be a generic ecchi, that's when it's not fun anymore. Because it's so much of a fun spin on the ecchi genre. It's got so many elements that actually really do work together. That it's fun. Doesn't matter if I need to turn off my brain and go, whatever, I just gotta ignore this because it's dumb. But Fate Ilia, I could never do that while watching it. Because my brain was always constantly watching it going, this does nothing special. This feels like a run-of-the-mill Maho Shoujo. It doesn't do anything unique, doesn't do anything original, and instead just takes characters from another series just to sell itself. It doesn't do anything. It's just bad.
Right, and that's the core of my debate with the Fate Ilias thing. It's intended to make money.
You should not have to judge a quality of a show on whether or not it's just there to make money. Gundam spin-offs. Gundam spin-offs are made to make money. Gundam X was made to make money. Gundam Wing was made to make money. Gundam 00 was made to make money.
But there
Doesn't
was
change the fact
something
they're still
more
on their
to
own
those series.
good shows. Yes, but they're good shows. They're good spin-offs. They take elements from the original and make them different, make them fun. Fate Ilia, if you use the excuse of it's made to make money, this is the worst kind of that.
It
this
is.
The kind
That's my
that was
point.
made.
Is that this is the pure pinnacle. I swear to God, it had to have been made for the pure reason that some fanboys of Ilia really wanted this Maho Shoujo runoff, and all of a sudden they said, hey, let's actually do this because we've got enough following for it. So they went ahead and did it, and I'm sure without a doubt they produced multiple figurines and various other forms of franchise for the series, which most likely sold fairly well in Japan. And when it comes down to it, I feel like that's the core of Fate Ilia. Like, they gave it some pretty graphics to make it not seem as bad. Like, if you watch the trailers, it seems pretty solid. But when you get into the series itself, it's designed for the pure intention to make money. They did not care about really anything else, in my opinion, besides just throw it out there, get some money, and you're good.
And here's the worst part is I do not want to hear that as a defense of it was made to make money. Because this is the worst kind of that, then. This is not designed
really
to do anything fun.
I'm agreeing with you fully. Like, not only did they design this to make money, they did not care whether it was good or bad. That's what I think. It's like, it's the pure pinnacle of, hey, we can make money off this, let's just go ahead and do it, who cares? You know, they didn't sit down with, you know, a bunch of directors and be like, how can we make this somewhat good? They just said, throw everything out there, and you know what, just do something with it.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, it's kind of disappointing, and I can understand why Fate fans have kind of divulged into this whole, if it's not Fate Zero, it's not good. Because they've had to deal with an okay adaptation by Dean, they've had to deal with Fate Lully, so when Fate Zero came along and it was fucking amazing, they're like, it
Correct
has
me if
to be
I'm wrong. Fate Ilia aired
Zero.
After Fate Zero.
I think it did. I think it did, actually.
It aired last year. Summer of
yeah,
last
that's
year.
what I thought.
Well, I mean, that's how you can understand the fan attitude then. So they had something kind of okay at first, and then they had this awesome thing, and then they had this bad thing. So Fate fans have kind of been yanked around by the chain, and which is why they probably have such high hopes for this new Unlimited Blade Works anime, is because they've had to deal with so much crud by different studios, by Silverlink, by Dean, that when Ufotable actually gave a damn and made something truly amazing, they're like, please take the visual novel and make it amazing. Make it an amazing anime.
I honestly don't think there's much more that need be added to Fate Ilya. I think Wexter got all of his feelings out on that. My opinions still stand the same. Watch it for the Yuri and Loli and the prettiness. Don't watch it for anything else. You'll regret it.
Like Wexter did.
Yeah, anyways, did anyone else have anything they were watching that wanted to be discussed? No, maybe?
If we're gonna continue with Fate, Fate Hollow Atraxia, actually, it finally got its full English patch, so I started playing that. Which, for those of you who don't know, Fate Hollow Atraxia is kind of, sort of, maybe a sequel to Fate Stay Night. It takes place after it, but it doesn't really pick a specific route. It's kind of just there. Like, this, where I'm at, it's like 6 months after the Holy Grail Wars, and the Holy Grail Wars is done. But it's so weird. Like, all the servants are still around when you know in like some of the other, like, in the 3 routes of Fate's Day Night, like, a lot of them die. And it's just like, in here, they're still around. The Holy Grail was done, somebody won, but they're still there. It's just like, I know there's a reason for it, but I don't know what it is yet, so it's weird. It's also kind of more slice of life. It's, from what I've seen, it's like 50% slice of life, fun Fate stuff, and then 50% serious Fate Stay Night-ish. But
so one might say that this is another franchise that they may or may not have been created for the intentions of making money.
Yes. I'm only about an hour and a half or 2 hours into it so far, so I can't say too much on it. But I'll have to read more to see where it's going. But it's really, really weird right now. I'm not sure what they're doing with it.
I see. Alright, well, thank you guys for joining us. Again, this has been, a nice podcast. We covered a few different topics. I hope you guys enjoyed. Just to run through everyone one more time, we have Luke.
See you guys.
LeeDoe.
Have fun, everyone.
Wexter.
Adios, amigos!
But anyways, guys, thanks for joining us. I hope you guys did really enjoy it, and it's good to be back. I know everyone's kind of happy that we can get Humcast running again, and hopefully this time it'll be running much, much longer. So, thanks for joining us again.